This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Roshunda Davis.
And I'm Heather Quent.
Today we'll be interviewing Mrs. Vera, Coordinator of Student Accounts.
And Ms. Bronwyn Sneed, Director of Financial Aid.
Okay, first we want to start out with what exactly is done in the Student Account Office?
Well, Student Accounts is really a keeper of any financial record or transaction that goes across any student's account that's enrolled at SAU. We may not always know the answer, but we can direct you to the appropriate area where you can find out the information that you need. And that's basically, the student accounts, we're just keeper of the records.
Okay, and what is exactly done in your line of work in the financial aid office?
Okay. Financial aid has a lot of different things that it covers. It covers the student's federal financial aid, any sort of state financial aid that the student receives, any sort of outside scholarships that a student may receive, whether it be from a private organization. It's all coordinated in the financial aid office. We also process timesheets. We take care of any work on campus. They have to have work permits and different things like that. So, and we also transmit the financial assistance over onto the student account, so the student will receive credit for that to pay for the bill.
Okay. What we want to do now is talk a little bit about how you grew up and where you came from and to the point of getting to here. So first of all, Ms. Sneed, where are you from? And
I'm from Haynesville, Louisiana, and I grew up there and lived there all my life.
So it's not, Magnolia is no stranger to you.
Right. I went to school at Louisiana Tech University in Ruston, Louisiana, and then I moved. When I finished my degree there, I worked in Haynesville for a little while for an oil company, and then moved to Magnolia and started working at the SAU.
Okay. When you went to college and majored business or accounting?
It was business administration with a marketing option.
Okay. And what was your very favorite course in college?
I liked the research. We did a marketing survey. We went door to door, and I can't stand that when someone comes to my door, but it was kind of fun. We went and asked different questions, and we were working on something for the parish.
So you not only got hands-on, but you got the theory, the backing too.
Mm-hmm. And it was fun.
Okay. When you got out of college, you said you went to work for an oil company, and you were doing their finances.
A little bit of all. I was the only female in the office, and so I did the typing for the whole thing, kind of an office manager.
An office manager, okay. How do you think that college and that job prepared you for what you came to at SAU?
When I was working for the oil company, as I said, I was the only female, and so I took care of the different phases. They had the engineers, the production managers, and so I did a little bit of all that. College also, I did a variety of accounting. I did statistics, and I think that helped in the financial aid because we do work with a lot of numbers.
So it helped give you a well-rounded outlook on the financial world. Okay. Also wanted to know, after this job and working in the oil company, did you come right to SAU?
Yes, I came to SAU from the oil company. It's a small kind of a field work company, and they were phasing that company out, and so I came to SAU. But if you had told, I don't think a financial aid director is what anyone wants to grow up to be. I don't think. And so if you had told me that's what I'd be doing, I'm not sure I'd have believed you.
Or agreed to do
that. Okay, Mrs. Camp, also where did you grow up?
I grew up in a rural community about 15 miles south of Magnolia. It's called Sharman. I attended and graduated from Taylor School District in May of '69. I enrolled in SAU in September of '69. Graduated in August of '73 with a Bachelor of Business Administration. And I worked for educational psychologist just as like the one girl office, kind of like what Mrs. Sneed did for the oil company, for about, 4 years. and I had my first child, and I took a little time off, and then I went to work for an oil company. And so, kind of the same way, I worked for that company until they merged with the larger company. And so I took a little time off, had my son, and then I worked part-time at a bank, at a local bank at Spring Hill. And then we also have poultry houses, and we were going to have to do a lot of expansion work in that, and I needed to go back to work full-time. And it's real funny, when I left McAllister, or when they left us, I told everybody that when I got ready to enter the job market again as a full-time employee, that I was going to work at the university, and so all the students would keep me young. Well, needless to say, several years later, that's where I wound up. Keeping me young, I'm not sure, but I'm here.
Keeping you on your feet.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I love it. I love the environment of the students. I love the contact with them, even registration. I love the registration.
Okay, Ms. Kent, what inspired you to go into accounting?
Well, my degree is really in business administration. When I started to college, I was only going to go for back then they had what they called, I think it was secretarial administration or something like that. It was a 2-year program. And that's what I was going to do. But I was lucky enough to receive a college scholarship, and one of the instructors called me in and asked me if I continued with the scholarship, would I consider, earning a 4-year degree. So since I had already so many hours in the office administration area, I just got my degree in that. So the principles of accounting is really all I've had. But when I was the one-girl office, you do a little bit of everything. And then when I went to work for the oil company, I did work in the accounting office. I started out as accounts payable, and then I was promoted to like administrative assistant to the controller. And I don't know, I really, when I re-entered the job market this time, I thought, well, I don't want any responsibilities. I just want something where I can go, do my job, come home, and take care of my small son and my child. But then I soon realized that if you didn't have a lot of responsibilities, you didn't, make very much money. And I still don't make much money. But, responsibility, you have to, to get the money that you need to survive, you have to be willing to accept responsibilities. And I realized that I like the accounting area. I like to know what projects you're going to work on. I like to know what I'm going to do. And I love for somebody to give me something because, it adds variety to it. And the unexpected is fun sometimes. But I still like to know that I have a little bit of control over the projects that I've got to do and what it involves, rather than just someone always telling you what else to do. So I liked the numbers, the accounting background.
Ms. Sneed, by going to college and realizing that financial aid or any kind of aid assistant, did it inspire you to okay, I want to go into financial aid, help students with financial aid, so I'm going to try to get some background to helping students in financial aid? Did it kind of help you in deciding on being
Yeah, I think so, and with the rising cost of college education now, everyone needs some type of help, and I think that plus knowing that I had to have help to get my degree, that helped me get to financial aid.
Okay, what kind of aid or what kind of aid is offered in the financial aid office?
There's federal aid, which consists of grants, loans, work on campus. There's also state aid, which for Arkansas is what's called the Arkansas Student Assistance Grant. Then we have outside scholarships as well as our own institutional scholarships, which are the Foundation Scholarship, the Presidential Scholarship, the Alumni Scholarship, Leadership, Minority Incentive, and the state program also has a lot of different new scholarships for teachers going into certain areas, minority teachers because the field, they're needing more and more. So there's a lot of different financial aid. There's also a web page that students can go to, and it gives a little bit on outside help.
Okay, loans is a big thing among college students. Do you encourage college students to get loans?
If they need it, yeah, it's a good program, but we're seeing a lot of students going to the loans because it's an easy way to get money. They don't think about later on how they're going to pay it back. The loans have tripled in the last year here at SAU, as well as all across the country. But and we're also seeing a rise in the default rates. The country's beginning to be more debt. I mean, not only with student loans, but with credit cards and things like that. But if it's a good program if the student needs to borrow, but they need to start borrowing wisely. If they don't need that money, they don't need to borrow it just because it's available. They need it only to borrow what they want.
Okay.
what they can get by with.
And then like with the aid and loans, I heard a lot of students talking about summer aid. Now, it goes pretty fast, I know. Okay, now what is it? How is the summer aid given out to students?
We have what's called a Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, and the federal government gives us X amount of dollars per year. We like to use it during summer if we have any of that money left over, because summer, you don't get a Pell Grant unless you have not used your Pell Grant during the academic year. So we like that little supplemental grant because it helps students instead of encouraging them to borrow and with the work on campus. So this year we had just a little bit, enough to help about 20 to 25 students with about $400, but it's because we have a little bit left over, and the reason we have it left over, maybe the student doesn't show up we've awarded it for the fall and spring, they don't come spring, or they lose their financial aid at the end of fall, and that's how we've had the ability to let some carry over. We awarded all at the beginning of like now we've awarded all of it for 97, 98. And then, but when some students won't show up in the fall, and we'll leave a little bit for our new students for spring semester. And then anything we have left over, we have to give it first summer. And so usually we have a little bit. It's not just a whole lot, but it does help.
Okay, and when talking with the loan, my first year here, I was a first-time person getting a loan, and I had to watch this video. Now, so what's the deal with the video?
The federal government says with the default rate that you have to go through what's called an entrance interview. The entrance interview is what the video is. It's telling you your responsibilities as a borrower. It tells you that that you are going to have to pay this loan back. It gives you a little bit of salaries, what the beginning salaries for your field, what they start at. And it shows you how much of that salary your loan's going to take up. That way, it makes you kind of think twice about getting a loan, okay. And it's a requirement.
Okay.
She'll also have an exit one too.
Yes. Before you leave, you'll see the video again.
Do you think that by watching the video, you think the students are getting some kind of message by it? I mean, do you think students are benefiting by it?
I'm not sure that they're understanding the whole thing. I think that they've already decided that they're going to get the money, and I'm not sure they're looking down the road. They're thinking about short term, that it's money and it's, that they need it right now. I'm not sure that it's keeping them from borrowing anymore.
What would you think about loaning? How much loaning is too much?
Well, depending on your other financial aid. If you have financial aid that covers your tuition, you don't live on campus, but you might need help with transportation, with your gas, maybe child care or something. Well, that you can borrow, you can figure up what you're going to be using for those 9 months. But we're seeing, like a beginning freshman that's an independent student, they can borrow $6,625. And they may have grants that cover everything else. And I'm not sure that they need that whole $6,625, but it goes up each year, where a senior can borrow $5,500 plus $4,000, so it's $9,500. And we have a lot of couples on campus that the wife's getting the maximum, the husband's getting the maximum, and they're not realizing that when they get out, their payments are going to be double.
And what will that payment be?
Like $600 to $700, a house payment. And it's for 10 years, so it comes around. So.
Okay, in the different loans, there's subsidizing and unsubsidizing. What's the difference between those loans?
The subsidized is the best program to go through. If you're eligible for that, that's what your loan's going to be processed at. The reason the subsidized is a need-based loan, so it depends on the financial aid form. And that comes back and tells us how much you're eligible for. The subsidized, the taxpayers pay the interest while you're in school, so you don't owe anything until the 7th month after you cease to be a student. That's when the interest starts accruing then, and you'll be making payments on the principal also. The unsubsidized is a non-need-based program, and you have to file the financial aid package, but if it may show that you have no need there, and need means the cost of education, and that doesn't mean just tuition, room and board. There's transportation, miscellaneous expenses, books, supplies, things like that go into your cost of education. and then you subtract what the federal processor says your expected family contribution is, and you come up with your need. But anyone can get an unsubsidized loan as long as it does not go over the cost of education. The difference between the unsubsidized and the subsidized being the need-based and non-need-based, but also the unsubsidized, the interest starts accruing the minute the student gets the loan. Now, students don't have to pay that back at this time. They can wait till they get out of school, but they have to remember that if they wait, they're going to be paying interest on interest, and so it's going to be a lot more.
Okay, okay, y'all deal with students from day in and day out. And I know sometimes, like at the beginning of the year, it's so hectic, and the students, ask who just swear. What part of the year is the most stressful time? Is it the beginning, or doing work study, pay time, or when is the most stressful time of your job?
Our summer is our busiest time, from anywhere from about May on till about the middle of September. That's the worst time, and then it picks back up right before spring term starts with new transfers and everything. But that is the most stressful. I think that's the time when you're handling the most traffic, but you also have your workload is a lot more, and so you're trying to get the work done, but also handle the incoming traffic and the incoming phone calls.
In student accounts, ours is, of course, at the beginning of the semester, and then the prepayment deadline. It's always really, really busy about a week before prepayment. And then on student paydays, that's always a peak time. It's a lot of traffic in and out. And then our summers, the terms are such short time periods that both summer sessions are just busy because it's also our fiscal year end, and we have a lot of reconciliations to do. So, summertime may not be as hectic with students, but then the fiscal year end takes up a lot of the time also. But at the beginning of the semesters is really the busiest time.
Okay, let's say, for instance, like some kind of type of aid runs out and a student can't pay their balance. How do y'all deal with that student? They just really can't come across, and loan is not a good option in their...
Well, if they don't want to borrow and they are eligible for federal work study, to start off with, at the beginning of a semester, we like to require that all the tuition and fees be paid, at the beginning of the semester. And if a student is living in the dorm, the first installment on their room and board. And then the other 4 installments coincide with the student paydays, so that, it'll be real convenient for the student to, make that payment at the day that they pick up their paycheck. And if they are not working on campus, about the only other, control we have, they can't re-enter the university if they owe a balance. And, they can't receive a transcript as long as they owe a balance. But, if they work on campus, it's real convenient because they have to pick up their check at the, the business office. And, we have a little control there that we work with them in that respect.
Have you ever just turned a student down and just, they couldn't do anything about it and y'all couldn't work it out any kind of way? You ever turned a student down?
Are you talking about as far as enrollment, or after they're enrolled and they...
After they're enrolled and couldn't get the bill, the payments?
If they're not working on campus and if they have an off-campus job, well, we don't have any control over that. And the only control that we would have is, they're just not able to get back in the university until that balance is taken care of.
Okay, and the payment plans, how has that worked out?
Okay, now we have 2 different types. With prepayment, we have a certain criteria that we work with, and we're not able to bend much on that. To meet prepayment, you have to pay all tuition and fees, and if you're living on campus, you have to pay that first installment on room and board. And that's what constitutes prepayment. And there's, we just don't have any leeway with that because we try to be fair to everyone. And if we've enforced that with the first 500, we can't make an exception and discriminate against those other 500. So for prepayment, it has to be all the tuition fees, and like I said, if they're on campus, first installment of room and board. But now, if if pre-registration is not so important to you, to keep that schedule, then you can always come at regular registration, and we're a little bit more flexible at that time. We can work with the students on their need and, try to be cooperative because, we're all encouraged that we want to, we want the students to come here, and we're all encouraged to work with the students and, to try to help them and, find some way that, they would be able to get in.
was just wondering how you ladies feel you are helping students at SAU. Ms. Sneed, do you want to go ahead and try to answer that first?
I'm sorry.
How you're helping students. I mean, not so much as what the regulations say in the code, but how, when you walk away at the end of the day, what do you feel like? How you help them?
I think a lot of times, sometimes, a lot of our jobs are just listening. If we, at least, if we care or give the students, let the students know that we're listening to them, that we're going to try to help. I mean, if they have a problem, if they don't like the way we do things, if they'll come in and talk to us and tell it, give us suggestions or whatever, then yeah, we could work. We also have an emergency loan that a lot of times when students get in a bind, it's no interest or anything. They come in and we can, if the money's there, sometimes the money's gone, but a lot of times a student, maybe their lights are going to be cut off or some kind of dental emergency or something, and we can give that money to them, and a lot of times that helps. But if they come in, they've got a problem, and we listen to them, and we sit there and try to work it out, then I think that's kind of a big part of the job.
I think it's like Bronwyn said, I think to strive to be, good at our jobs like we both try to be, I think you have to have that mother instinct, that you want to help them. You want to listen to them and try to help them sort it out and let them solve it, but at the same time, help them listen and mold them to be able to accept responsibilities and meet deadlines, read that information, make that prepayment deadline, make that payment installment deadline. And, I know sometimes, like Bronwyn said, all it takes is really listening, because they'll be so frustrated and they'll be so nervous. And if they finally feel like that they have an ally, they have some hope that there is somebody there that will listen to me and help me. If it's just picking up the phone and calling to see if we can get a transcript there faster, or filling out a form, sometimes they just feel it's an easy task, but they just feel so overwhelmed because they're away from their parents and they're afraid. And I like to think that we're there for them, and I hope that they feel comfortable coming to us with their problems like that.
Okay. How many university presidents have you worked under, and how has that affected your department or office or whatever?
I've only been here under Dr. Gamble, but by being raised in this community all my life and attending here, I've been aware of all the different administrators, and I think that each president that we've had, I feel like that they are, just looking to the future and trying to, make the best of the assets that we have and encourage as many students as, we can to come to SAU. And, they're always trying to promote our strong features and, encourage the students of tomorrow to come.
Okay, how's it affect the financial aid office?
Okay, I've worked with two, and basically they've let us do our job unless a problem arises or they have students go to them, then they'll come down. But I think, as Vera said, both of them were really concerned about the student, trying to help the student. They want the students here and trying to help any sort of problems that they had. I think both of them were real student oriented. They both wanted to push SAU out there and hopefully get a reputation that we do care about the students and that we will help you as much as possible.
Okay, since there's a lot of financial aid or aid out there and so many loans, whatever, does the financial aid office have like a workshop to help students look at the different options out there?
We do a lot of workshops for high school counselors. We provide college nights. We travel a lot usually during the fall or early spring, getting out there for the high school. Now, we tried doing workshops here on campus, not this past spring, but spring of '96. We held 5 workshops. We put advertisements up, and we only had one person show up out of all 5. And so, we're glad to. We'll deal with them on a one-to-one basis. And if, groups want to come, we'll be glad. We thought what we had envisioned, students would bring their financial aid packets, their tax returns, and we would sit there and get the forms, gather them up at the end, and we could file them electronically for them. But there was not interest, and I don't know how we can promote that. And we're open to suggestions.
Okay. If like President Gamble came into either one of your offices or wherever and asked, what would be an area that you would like to change in that office? What area would it be and why?
In our own office?
In the business office or in the financial aid office?
I think we could use more staff. I think with financial aid, the volume increasing, that would give us time to deal with students more and more on a one-to-one basis instead of really pushing the paperwork and everything. I think we could benefit with a few more people.
I think that would probably be my answer also, because in the very near future, we're going to the electronic funds transmission, which will require a lot more processing on the business office side. And with the staff that we have, at the present, it would be real hard to, reconcile it each day and to be able to, feel sure that everything was being done as error-free as possible. So I think that's what I would also have to say.
When did computers come in, and how have they made it easier or worse working with the financial aid? And
I've always had the computer since I've been here.
I have, but I believe we got on the computer the summer of 91, and we went back and put like 91 on there. Before that, we had done everything by hand. For registration, we had typed lists of students and how much they were eligible for, and we had a Pell list, we had a loan list, we had an SAU list, we had lots and lots of paper. And I think the computer has helped that. We key in that Social Security number and it gets there. That has been one thing, but a lot of times we depend a lot more on the computer. When it goes down, we're at a loss now.
Yeah.
But it has tremendously helped the financial aid office we have a direct tie between the financial aid and the business office, and once we put their financial aid in, the student accounts can look at it and see that student has that.
Yeah.
What type of office environment do you have in the business office or in the financial aid office?
We're a real close group. 3 of us worked at a previous job together, so we didn't have to worry about if we would get along with each other. We just had to worry about learning to do our job. So we're a real close bunch.
That's the same way with us. There are four of us, 4 full-time employees, and I think we all get along. If we have a problem, we come in and we air it out, and then we forget about it. We go on. But I think we're kind of like a family. We're with each other a lot more than we are with our own families.
Okay. Do work ever get so hectic that you might take work home at the end of the day?
I do. I used to do a lot more often than I do now. I also have a computer at home, and by the use of modem, I can dial in, and it looks just like it does when I sit down at my desk. So that helps a lot, because I always felt guilty about having to stay over because I felt like I needed to be at home with my children. And so by having that access, that makes it a lot easier. I can work on that after they go to bed at night, and it works out fine.
Do you ever take your work home?
I do, especially with the 3-day weekend. A lot of times I load up a box with 5 folders and get them completed on the weekend and bring them back on Monday. But yeah, it's just not an 8 to 5 job.
As far as bringing work home with you, what about, have you ever considered doing a 3 at work, 2 at home during the week? I mean, has that program been thought of it all here at SAU as far as you 2 ladies are concerned?
I think we have such student traffic. If it was a project that you had a deadline on, and because of the telephones and traffic, in the office, that it was keeping you from being able to complete it on time, I think we'd probably do something like that. But just to be able to do our day-to-day job, we have too much student traffic that we wouldn't be able.
I think that's the same way with the financial aid office. We have to be available for the students, for them to come in, or phone calls. So I think that would make it hard unless we could all switch out and work something like that. It would be nice, but.
Okay, in the business office, I was just wondering, like, I attended Monticello my first year, and they were like a little lenient on purchasing books. Even though you didn't have enough money, like on your account, you still owe for your tuition, room, board, or whatever, they still allowed you to charge your books to your account unless it was like over the amount that was due for that month. Do y'all do it here?
In the student accounts, Brenda Garrett and myself that make up student accounts, we don't have the authorization to do that, but the higher administration, if a student has difficulty, they don't want them to sit in the classroom without the use of their books. So, there are other people that we can send you to, but Ms. Garrett and myself, do not have that authority.
Okay, well, that's about our time. I'd like to thank you ladies for coming and answering our questions. Thank you, Mrs. Sneed. Thank you, Mrs. Camp. This has been Heather Quent
And I'm Roshunda Davis.
for the SAU Report. Have a great day.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.